everyone. Derek, are we?
We are live on Periscope and Facebook.
Wow.
Whoa, that's a lot of pressure. Just kidding. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday edition of 1 Million Cups. As always, Julie Selesky. I do hosting and bad jokes and entertainment. These fine folks will introduce themselves in a second. Love to see all the familiar faces. Love to see some new faces as well. A couple of announcements before we get started. Always like to thank our sponsors, Crescendo, Old National Bank, the library, and Field 59 in the back with all of the live streams on all the platforms. And then last announcement that I have, and you guys can chime in if you have any, Culture Community is next Thursday.
It is.
At the Madison Club at 8:30. Jelana Peterson will be presenting from
8:30 or 8 a.m.?
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
We're going to go with 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
for now.
Check
we'll
the
update
website.
you next week.
But
So
Jelana Peterson from Zendesk will be presenting on the importance of social giving as part of your culture and your community at work. So I think that's really important and kind of talks about it from a different perspective than we've heard from before. So make sure to go on the website, check us out, RSVP, and we will look forward, as always, free coffee there as well. I think that's it for my announcements.
Okay, well, I'm Diana Pastrana. I'm with M&M Office Interiors. I'm also the social media coordinator for 1 Million Cups as well as Culture Community. And I don't have anything new for you guys except remember to use hashtag 1MCMadison.
Morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I work at HealthFinch. I do product and engineering stuff there. Two announcements. Yes, 2 announcements. I almost forgot the second one. The first is we have stickers by the coffee now. 1 Million Cup stickers. They're delightfully small, so they're not intrusive. So grab one.
Represent.
Put them on your laptops.
Grab one when you fill up your coffee today. And then my second announcement is, and I made this announcement last week as well, we are booked through kind of the end of December presenter-wise and starting to get into January. So if you need a month or so or want the holiday break to work out, flesh out whatever your idea is, you can come back and present strong in January. So apply online, give me a shout. We can just talk it out too if you're at various stages of readiness. We can figure out what a good time is.
So that also leads me, so we are confirming that we will have 1 Million Cups on the 27th and the 3rd.
And the 3rd.
Okay, so for all of you people who wanted to take a holiday break,
Too bad.
you can't. So we hope to see you there.
All right.
Good?
Trezzy,
Yep,
gonna
that's
kick
all I
All
us
got.
right, Trezzy, you
Sure.
start.
Don't we usually start over there? Hi, my name's Trezzy. It's nice to meet you all. I'm a software accessibility consultant. I'm also the host of the 100 State of Mind podcast. We're always looking for entrepreneurs to come on the show. You should check it out and subscribe, 100stateofmind.com.
Kurt Peterson, co-founder of 32 Auctions, platform for hosting and managing silent auction fundraisers.
Where's your better half? Just kidding.
Notice how he just
I know.
yeah, he's not here.
Oh, you'll present, so we'll
Yeah,
go into
no.
the background.
Good morning, everyone. Nick Lombardino. I'm with Farwell, which is a management consulting firm. We specialize in change management, project management, and process improvement. And I'm also a co-founder of Atlas Providers, which is a free tool that connects specialized startup service providers with entrepreneurs.
You have to mention culture, though.
I think that's you. All right.
Hey, I'm Zach Blumenfeld. Good morning. Co-founder of Third Space and CultureCon, coming to Madison in June of 2018.
Good morning. My name is Trent Fita. I am a student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
I'm Caleb. I'm a real estate agent with Realty Executives.
Hey, I'm DP Knudten. I am the creative collaborator at Collaborator Creative, and I work collaboratively on creative projects with a wide variety of individuals and companies on everything from custom writing to nonfiction branding. I am also the co-author with Spencer X. Smith of Rotoma, the ROI of social media top of mind, which is now available on Amazon or at rotomathebook.com. And I'd also like to invite you to check out the podcast, which was launched about 5 weeks ago. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Search for Rotoma.
Travis Human, owner of Stray Cat Bicycles, a consumer direct bike company based here in Madison.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Shannon Flash. I'm a project manager at WPS.
Andrew Gonzalez, commercial lending at Old National Bank.
Good morning, Alex Ryan, founder of Prairie Light Solar. It's a renewable energy finance consulting company.
Hello, Derek Marley, retail analytics and strategy at Old National Bank.
Raul Rao, analytics and strategy, Old National Bank.
I'm Tamara Songroff. I'm the owner of Patient Care Partners.
Bob Pope, research analyst, WEDC.
I'm Josh. I run Little Wolf Digital Marketing. I help companies get found online.
Hi, I'm Theo. I'm an artist and web designer and designers.
I'm Derek with Field 59. We're an online media platform for media companies. That includes broadcasters, newspapers, and radio stations. And that's the door closed.
Lori Carlson, owner and operator of Madison Green Box.
Lane Manning, your realtor with Keller Williams Realty.
I'm Mark Thompson. I'm a lawyer. I recently relocated from Minnesota, so I start as an appellate public defender in about a month.
Ooh. I mean, good for you. Sorry.
I'm Jonathan Solari. I'm the major gifts officer for Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin.
And
I'm you.
You're so on cue. Yeah, it's your turn.
I work for Baker Tilly. It's an accounting firm. I'm Danny Anders. Good morning.
Last announcement, I'm sorry, this just popped in my head because DP started going on his spiel. He is a very good spiel. He is going to be speaking at Taps and Technology on December 20th? December 20th from 4:30 to 7:30 at the Madison Club. Free cocktails and apps and everything, and you can hear him talk about millennials and branding and everything that he
Well, mostly,
about.
it will not surprise you, it's going to be about the why and how of Rotoma.
Well, there you go. So in case you want his book in
Verbal form?
verbal form, I don't think he's done the Audible yet, so maybe this will be the next best thing. But come check us out. Free event for you guys, hosted by ESG.
Right on. Welcome, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Kenny from ReSCI. I'll pass it over.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Hanif Numan. I'm the Chief Sociologist of ReSCI Consulting. How I came to be the Chief Sociologist. I used to prosecute financial crimes for the Illinois Attorney General's office. And in doing such crimes, I mean, different types of prosecution from mortgage fraud, state benefits fraud, various types of theft cases, things involving checks, things involving balance sheets, financial statements, things of that nature. And I was fortunate when I started working to have a very good supervisor. And so he used to show up at work at 7 a.m. and we started at 9. And once I started working there, I would show up at 7 a.m. with him and we would talk until 9 a.m. And we did that for the entire 3 years that I worked there. And so much of our conversations were about how I perceived the climate of the target's workspace and engaging them in crime. So like, you know, you have an appraiser who decides to take, you know, $40,000, $50,000, you know, in increments of like $70, $80 over, you know, 7 or 8 years, you know, to add up to that amount and say, it must be something about the workspace that, you know, improves that person's likelihood of engaging in crime. And he's like, no, that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the dollar amount and the criminality, not about the workspace, not about the culture. And so what he would also tell me is like, if you don't do something about how you're feeling, the way that you're talking about criminality, which is not about the target and more about the environment, you'll probably be sitting in this office for 10 years because the time will go by like that. And so I took that to mean that I should think differently about my career. And so I decided to come back to University of Wisconsin-Madison Sociology Department, where I did my dissertation on the mortgage collapse of 2009. I looked at loan originators, bank executives, and state regulators, trying to tease out in each of those respective workspaces how their, what's called the cultural cognitive aspects of their work, how their work space inform their decision making. Why would a loan originator, for example, decide to alter a person's financial information, as they told me, 10 to 20 times per applicant. This is what happened during the mortgage collapse of 2006 up to like 2011, when they said that they would change a person's financial information for purposes of, improving their monthly mortgage rate. And so what they didn't seem to know when they were responding to my interview questions is that every time that you change a person's financial information, that's one count of fraud. That's a class 3 felony. And they said that they were doing it 10 to 20 times per applicant, as an example. And so I also looked at, like I said, state regulators and bank executives in their own respective spaces to try to tease out what it is about their culture that inform their attitudes and behavior. And so after that, I decided to start ReSCI Consulting, where I go into organizations and I attempt to do a deep dive into your workspace by using qualitative methodologies, so interviews, focus groups, questionnaires, surveys, observation, to kind of get an understanding of your culture. And by doing that, I, on the back end, try to incorporate different types of soft skills that oftentimes fit within the confines of that pain point, right? So, something like poor customer service might be the root cause of that might be something like self-efficacy, right? Communication, poor effective listening, things of that nature. So I try to find the social or the soft skill solution to fit the problem that seems to exacerbate the poor culture. And so that is what we do at ReSCI. I have just one more slide to just kind of tease out. So evidence-based, qualitative methodology, and customizable soft skills. So I do have, your standard training workshops that I think will fit a lot of organizations, but I think that what's distinctive about what I'm attempting to do is to customize my approach. So I try to go into every organization. The more that I can learn, the more effective I think the soft skill solutions would be. And so the question I have is, how do you do that in a place like Madison? It seems that I've gotten quite a bit of work from the city of Madison. I do a lot of training with the city, small engagement with nonprofit organizations. I spend a lot of time working on, both bigger ideas and smaller ideas. But I think it's difficult to have an organization have to admit that there's something, because I think every organization has something. It's just about your tolerance. What are you going to do about it, and how when do you intend to do that? But it seems the barriers are a little high in Madison. I'll give you an example. This is really the only thing that I have that's perhaps measurable. So I designed a continuing legal education training for all the lawyers in the state of Wisconsin, and I had it approved through the Board of Examiners for the state of Wisconsin, and it's 4 credits for continuing legal education. A lawyer needs, I think, 6 credits per year, right? So this is 4 credits, and one of those credits is ethics. I sent it to no less than 500 individual lawyers and probably about 200 law firms in Madison, probably about 300 law firms in Milwaukee, and big fat goose egg, not a single reply. And so what I did then is I took the same information, I took out Wisconsin, of course, and I sent it to the top 25 law firms in the city of Chicago. Top 25 law firms in the city of Chicago, and I got a reply the same day from one of the top 10 law firms in Chicago, same day. Whereas Wisconsin, not a single response. So maybe it's, I don't know what that is. So I'm trying to understand how do I find those avenues or those entry points into the different markets to do something that I think could be a little bit unsettling, like I said, because you're having to admit that there's something about your culture that needs to be enhanced, and that's what we do. So I appreciate your time.
So happy when the presentations are concise and to the point, and I really appreciate that. I wasn't even that's self-reflection on your part. Anyone have questions for, okay, you are all set to go.
So what you were just mentioning there with the one law firm in Chicago that responded the very same day.
Yes.
Looking back on that, was there anything that was significantly different or that stood out to you when you looked at what that law firm was that was different than any of the other ones? I know because your question is, you're looking for entry points, but was there something that was significantly different about that one that responded?
So this is probably one of the top 25 in the country, as a matter of fact. They have approximately 3,000 lawyers across 10 different cities. And so the person who responded was the head of human resources for the entire organization, and she's in New York. So I sent it to like the head of HR for the entire firm, but also within the city of Chicago. So it's multiple emails to the same firm. So she replied and said, I'm forwarding it to the person in Chicago, and and just kind of took it from there. But the only thing that's different is that this person sitting in New York, who replied, as opposed to someone sitting in Chicago or Madison or Milwaukee, for that matter. Yes.
I guess I wonder what the interest would be, or how people relate to it in Chicago or Madison, because Chicago's like a huge market and probably has more interest in financial crimes, or thinks they have more interest in financial crimes than Madison might, even though there are lots of financial crimes that may happen here, maybe on a smaller scale or with small business, embezzlement or fraud, or I can think of a couple examples that have been in the news. I'm wondering if it's a matter of people being able to relate to it locally in that way, or if it's and also if you're saying to the top law firms, I guess, if they have a specialization in financial crimes or things like that.
I'm glad that you asked that question. My business is not about financial crimes. My business is about the culture and climate of organizations. I can do work across any organization, any group of people who are coming together to, reach a goal. I can do the work. So it's not about, I do work with some financial institutions, but this is not my only market. So like I said, I could do nonprofits, different types of business. I'm interested in the people. I'm a sociologist, so I deal with interpersonal relationships. So it really doesn't matter what the organization or the industry is. It's about the people. It's about the attitudes and the behavior and the norms and those things that are originated and exist within the relationships.
It will not surprise anyone who's a regular here, but I kind of have a unique perspective on what you're talking about, because I'm the recovering son of two sociologists, and I work in business and marketing. First thing, you created your product before you knew if there was really a market for it. You then take that and correct if I'm getting anything wrong, please correct me. You then take that product, you ship it out, and say, "Here's my product," and you want people to respond some way. You were fortunate to get one response from my point of view, because you gave a finished product to someone and said, "Here it is." One person responded, "Yay!" They've given you valuable information. But one of the things in business is, when you, one, don't build your product before you know there's market for it. But two, say you're fast prototyping your product, which you've done, and you've gotten one response. That was a really great question, because it's now identified I think of it as an infection vector for your product within an organization. Someone from HR. You now know who to talk to, at least in this one instance. So, again, I'm not trying to beat you up with a baseball bat, but I am trying to help you out in that there's confusion about what your product is. I'll speak for everybody in the room when I say I don't think anybody here understands it as much as you do, and potentially I do because I've swum in this pool a long, long time.
Right.
What you're saying is, let me put it in terms, dummy terms, 101 terms. If I have an inventory, a warehouse, and I'm an inventory manager, I know the worst thing for my bottom line is the flat panel TVs that are quietly going out the door, and I don't know it until we do inventory. What is it about my organization that allows people who I pay feel comfortable with walking out with a flat screen TV? Is that kind of where you deal with what your product is? That you would come to me and say, let me assay your warehouse, find out what's going on, point to corrective behaviors that can change your culture so that you don't have flat screen TVs walking out the door.
Can I
No,
back on that quickly?
Yeah.
Because I heard something like that, but I also heard, so before we started, you and I were having this conversation of some workplaces having the not my job problem.
Yeah.
And when there's a culture of being able to say, oh, that's not my job. I appreciate there's a problem over there, but it's not my job to fix it. Then problems start falling through the cracks, and you end up with larger problems. So it sounds to me like what you're saying is that, you know, if I'm an organization and stuff just isn't getting done, or, you know, stuff is going out the door with massive defects and nobody's owning responsibility for that, then part of what you could do is come in, assess my culture, say, why is nobody taking ownership of these problems? And what skills do people need in order to be able to, you know, come together, be a real team, take ownership, and do better?
Right, that's called role orientation, as a matter of fact. So that is the type of work that I do. I can help to figure out where that comes from and how to address it.
Yeah, so, but my question about that also, kind of coming back to like, what is the story, what is the hook, who are the clients or the potential clients who are going to respond to that, is, so you've got these folks in Chicago, you're doing some work with folks in Madison city government, it sounds like. My question is, what are they responding to? Because I feel like there are two parts of your story that I'm hearing.
Right.
There's the evidence-based part that says, you know, this is hard science, I can, you know, diagnose your problem in this kind of hard sciencey sort of way. But then there's also kind of the soft skills, let me change your culture, let me help with that. And I think those are two different kinds of stories. Like there's the kind of hard story that I can really get my hands around, and then there's kind of this squishier, warmer sort of story. And which one are you seeing people respond to?
So the kind gentleman was referring to a product, right? And so I brought up the case of the continuing legal education as an example because this is something that people need. This is not, you don't have a choice as a lawyer whether you're going to have continuing legal education credits or not. You can't be a lawyer unless you have that. So I'm presenting something that you already need in a you know, 4 out of the 6 credits that you need. Now, the question becomes, so it's on lawyer burnout. The course is on lawyer burnout. How do you defend yourself against lawyer burnout? Huge problem in the legal industry. Higher than, as a matter of fact, something like, you know, dealing with disabled children or like any other profession, like social work. Lawyer burnout is a major problem. So I'm offering something that you already have to have it somewhere. It's about the title. It's about what you want to utilize as your form of continuing legal education. That was an example just to show something like you take it or leave it, but at some point you're going to need 6 credits. So here's 4 of the 6. No response in Wisconsin, response in Illinois because hey, we need 6 credits. Interesting topic. That's one product, if you will. What I'm offering as my other list of services are connected to that customization, going into to figure out why your role orientation problem exists. Why do people say, no, that's not my job, I only do this? You know, it could, number of reasons why that happens. You know, like I said, it could be something like self-efficacy. People don't feel confident about what they know. Oftentimes you'll find that people, if you look at a job description and you ask them, sit down, I just want to talk to you about what's on this job description. You ask them about what they're supposed to do and what they do every day, you'll find that it's not complete. You're probably doing 60, 70% of what's on the job description. That's how you get to that role orientation problem. So you would just unpack what those things are, come up with some customizable solutions that are, like I said, situated within the soft skills realm of things, and then just kind of measure how that looks going forward. If people are willing to correct their behavior to fit the issue that we've identified.
Kind of a follow-up point on DP's point, which is I think might help provide an answer to engaging in local businesses question, which is in the software world, which two things. I guess the first thing is I appreciate the qualitative culture solution to a problem that seems to be social or culture in nature. A lot of times, especially in the healthcare industry, people will try to apply quantitative technical solutions to a problem that is not quantitative or technical. So I think your match is correct there. There's some crosstalk, which is in the health or the software industry, you will often get some engagement through what's called development partners. So these people will pay nothing or pay really limited, and they will basically tell you exactly how they want to be engaged, and you get not capital, but basically product development and design. And that might be a possible take, and I think that's kind of what DP is getting at, is a possible outlet is if you were to engage people from a partnership or development or program development, partner, you might be able to hash out what's going to get people to respond better. It will take time, and you won't have capital coming in the door, but that might be a model to think about, dev partner model. I don't know, just my thoughts.
So I don't want to take up too much time, but I think if you start the presentation with very heavy legal discussion, you have to establish your background, obviously, and you have to establish where your evidence comes from and what you're doing. But then I think, as Thea was saying, it kind of lends us to get a bit more confused about what the actual product is, because if you lead with the legal stuff, everyone immediately thinks fraud or that kind of workplace thing, and that's obviously not what you do. So that being said, I'm curious where your list of people comes from, where you're actually, your call list essentially, and I'm wondering why you're not in healthcare and technology specifically in Wisconsin, because I've worked for a number of either financial companies or with lawyers and that kind of thing, and the only place I've ever seen anyone care about culture at all has been in healthcare and technology. So I'd imagine calling for lawyers and that kind of thing, they don't really, you can say I'm wrong, I guess, but they don't necessarily have the same value for culture as younger technology companies were, or healthcare companies, especially in Madison, would care about. So I'd say if you're looking for a market like that, I'd worry about where your list comes from, and also if you're calling on HR, that's great, but also calling on people who are cultural representatives at those companies, because technology companies I've worked with and healthcare companies have culture people who understand this and would love what you're doing. But if you're calling a lawyer, I don't know if they have any idea what you're talking about.
We have a similar thought process on the idea of a very traditional thought process type company is going to be harder to infiltrate. Lawyers are a perfect example, right? They've done things the way they do them. They're not really open-minded because they are so regulated, right? But when we're having culture discussions, and I'm part of an organization that talks about culture regularly with people and how their workspace is laid out and how we can support culture that way, there are companies that lend themselves to wanting to do a deeper dive into culture. And so I think that might be a good place to start engaging with local businesses, is with people who are currently having the conversation about culture. But I'm part of an organization called Culture Community, and at our last kind of roundtable discussion, there was a business consultant there, and he said that it's one of the number one concerns for these C-level managers is that they know there is a culture problem, but they don't know what it is. So I would agree with Michael completely that it's nice to take a scientific approach. The name of your company lends to this, I'm not going to be a mushy hold your hand and get you through your culture issue. I'm going to teach you what the problem is and solve it. And I think that's going to relate really well to business owners who have this whole idea of there must be a problem, but we don't know what it is. So there may be an easier sell in companies that are open-minded to culture. So do you think you're going toward more of a traditional traditional culture environment, or are you looking for younger, kind of more accepting companies right now?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be more of the latter. But at the same time, I really think that the the socio-economic political climate is going to make it a necessity for long-standing organizations to kind of recalibrate, so that they can attract and maintain the level of talent that's out there. Young people who need to be integrated, and there's people who are will sit within organizations who are they're barriers to real integration. So I think there's a lot of sociological phenomena that are existing within organizations. So I do feel that I'm in the right lane. It's just about.
Well, one of the ways you might think about your business is figure out what's a product and what's a process. Because your product, your course, your 4-credit course for lawyers is a product. And there is a marketplace of products competing for traction within law firms to give those credits and stuff like that. You have to compete with that product in that marketplace. You also have a totally different marketplace, which is a process-oriented marketplace, which Michael was kind of referring to, where it's, if I can take Michael's words and maybe put it a slightly different way, he's saying let the marketplace tell you what your process product is. So, Diana, our CEOs who are concerned about the cultures in their company, are they the people you should get in front of? Maybe through a evangelist in the HR department. This is a very high strategic level concern. And it's not going to be purchased by a mid-level manager or even potentially a director. But if it's blessed by the CEO or the C-suite as a major imperative, maybe that's where you can go. But again, divide your company into, okay, I've got a product, it is 4 credits and it comes in a box. And then I have a process which engages you and all your expertise to deal with custom. It's the difference between a off-the-rack suit and a bespoke tailored suit. You're both, right? The marketplace needs to understand that. And you need to understand that, I think, in my humble opinion.
Dolphin tank.
Yeah, well, sorry.
I just keep thinking that a lot of companies probably feel vulnerable and they don't really want to expose their shortcomings to an outside person. They're like, okay, I know I have an issue, but let's try to take care of this internally. They don't want it to be out there.
I couldn't disagree.
Okay.
But I think that could be the paradox, in terms of most CEOs or high-level executives, if you ask them, they will probably tell you that they know what the pain points of their organization are. They know how people feel about what they're doing. But and I've done this, I've asked members of organizations, to talk about how they feel about the organization, and is completely different than what the CEO thinks is happening. And so if a person thinks that, I know how my organization feels, I know what my pain points are, I know how to address these things, if we're going to do it internally, you're always in a circle, because that's what middle managers do. They speak in a way that doesn't disrupt their place in the organization. She's not gonna say that I'm having a real problem with these things, because that's going to show some level of personal vulnerability, right? So it's oftentimes required that someone from the outside, at least amongst other things, can signal to your organization that you're actually willing to do something. When someone comes in from the outside in change management, sometimes that's the initiating thing. That's the thing that moves people. They've signaled to us that they care about our problem, so they've brought in someone to do something about it, and that thing will make people want to think about doing something differently. If it's always about we're going to do it again, we're going to try again, you're gonna find that cycle continuing, in my humble opinion. Yes.
Now, you have a PhD in this field, and you obviously know a lot about it, and you talk as it like you're able to see into these problems. Now, I believe your biggest challenge, tackling these companies or talking to these companies is like getting them to see what you're seeing, showing them that there is a problem, getting them to see that there is a problem that could be improved. And, that might come with, the experience of your business, showing what companies that you've worked with, how they've changed, how they've grown to be better. So I just feel like that should be a large focus as far as getting into the market, is focusing on a system to get higher level CEOs that DP had mentioned to be able to see the problem that's going on in the workplace. And then they'll probably be more accommodating towards your consulting.
You mean so use an example of a past engagement to show my capacity to do a future engagement?
And sure, that might be, customer privacy issues, but I believe that there should be some sort of precedent that you can show that this is the work that I've done, this is how I can make it better. These companies, these were the types of problems that they've faced, that I've worked with in the past, and this is how they were solved, and this is how much they've grown since then.
I see. Okay. So more quantitative.
Sure.
So at least as a way to increase my what's the term? Legitimacy?
Credibility,
Well, also speak the language that they speak.
Right. Because, CEOs, their main thought is, I'm spending money on your capabilities. What return am I going to get out of it? I mean, that's just how they think. So I believe you need to tailor your message towards those type of people.
Also, just to sort of jump on that too, it seems that leading with the problem might not be the best way to go, because people, again, are a little bit shy about approaching, a third party about that kind of thing. Maybe leading with a solution would make sense, and then using something like a case study to sort of back that up might be helpful. Because if you say you have these problems and these are common problems that companies like yours have, they might get a bit defensive. But if you say where I'm, companies of your size and that sort of thing that do these things are more successful, I can help you do these things. As opposed to saying, these are your problems, let's fix these problems. You say, these are where you should be. And like, it's more aspirational than it is punitive, I guess.
I understand your point, but I don't think that's what I'm doing. Because I can't tell a organization what their problem is until I have done some level of inquiry. And so I'm saying that I have the capacity to ask important questions, relevant questions. From that information, we can identify what your list of problems are. We can help you put them in order of importance. We can figure out what you want to do about it and how we can do it. Can I solve every problem that I identify? Probably not. You may need some other consultant to do some other thing. But I can tell you what I can do. Like I said, it's relegated to the soft skills development, kind of empowering people to talk, to have conversations, to listen attentively, to show eye contact, all these little things, sociological components. Now, how can I make a person a better salesman if the person's not a good salesman? I don't know. Probably not. It just, just depends. But so I don't know the solutions to a problem until I can identify that problem, and my work is about identifying the problems using qualitative methods to do it.
We've only got a couple more minutes left, so maybe one more question.
I think I understand now better what you do when you talked about how I'm qualified to ask the right questions. I think that's something that translates really well. Everybody in the room can apply that to their own business practice and say, that I can get on board with. I need somebody who can ask the right questions, because right now I can't figure out how to ask the right questions, but I'm not going to admit that. So I think that should be incorporated in your pitch, the idea that you're there to ask questions and then analyze. Is very powerful.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks everyone. Henny, I've got a 1 million cups branded mug here for you. Let's give a round of applause for Henny again. Thank you. And grab some coffee, grab a sticker, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you.